Hello y'all, this is Focus Tree for Sweden, a mod for Hearts of Iron 4 that does exactly what it sounds like, and that is give a unique national focus tree to Sweden. Sweden in this modification starts off with a few national spirits, and they are Gustav V, Svensk Tiger, Swedish neutrality, communist influence, and Swedish army. Let's move on now to the all-important focus tree, and this is basically the main feature of Focus Tree for Sweden, unsurprisingly. And on the left side we have the Swedish industrialization branch, and this is all about factories and infrastructure and such things like that. You have rapid industrialization plan versus long-term industrial plan. Then after that we have a naval branch, and this is where we can focus on screen ships or focus on capital ships. And what's next? We have the army. That's pretty neat. You got your Revovo focuses here. Well, one of them anyway. I think that's only one. One focus is Revovo. We have the Air Force, air innovations, and things like that. You can choose to go with licensing foreign designs or having your own indigenous designs. And then we get into the meat and potatoes of this mod, and that is the political paths. And I'm just going to probably go over each one of these paths with the exception of the historical neutral one, which is play for both sides, because I don't think that changes too much. It's just Sweden just tries to stay alive. Basically that's what this path amounts to, and it plays for both sides. And we'll start with the form a Swedish trade zone route, I suppose. To even do any political focuses at all, we have to do this focus here, and that is going to be auto-completed since I have focus autocomplete enabled, and that is a console command. Then we have to do democratic principles. That is done, and that locks out the rest of the focus tree. Just go with maintain our neutrality, and that locked out even more of it. I mean, it's nice that they do that. It just makes things look less cluttered, I guess. And then we have stabilize the country. Just focus on stuff like this. Child allowances, do that. Subsidized dental care. Regulation of the farm laborers. Support domestic production. Develop mainland. And arm the nation. And once you're at this part of the focus tree, you can choose to go with play for both sides or form the Swedish trade zone. And we're not going to do with play for both sides here, so let's go with don't play for both sides. We're going to form the Swedish trade zone. That is done. Trade center, and Sweden will become known as the Swedish trade zone, and the trade center will become the leader of the Democratic Party. That is done. Now we got a new flag. That is that, and the trade center is the leader of Sweden at this time. I think Sweden got a little more darker blue, or were they always dark blue like that in this mod? Whatever. Now let's do the focuses. Better worker conditions, adopt capitalism, planned economy, invigorate the industry, develop the mining techniques, trade agreements, and this will give us some special decisions, all orienting themselves around trade agreements with different nations. And then we can do arms sales, and that's also going to give us some special decisions that will allow Sweden to sell equipment to other countries. The next path we're going to do is the communist one, so do this starting focus here. Good. Now complete Swedish revolutionism. Done. And complete the Folkhemmet project. That's complete. Form the Workers' Council. Women's suffrage. Strengthen the communist influence. And since I have focus, no checks enabled as a console command, I can do Workers' Republic of Sweden, but ordinarily it needs to have more than 35% support for the Communist Party to be started at all. But from this, the SKP will take over. And we have a new flag, and Sweden is now referred to as the folk Hemmet, and improve the worker conditions, revolutionary army, socialist economy, socialist faith, land reorganization, join the Comintern, Scandinavian expansion, go ahead and annex Denmark and Norway, make them communist. That is done. Split Finland and develop the Scandinavia, Soviet investments, and you can divide the Baltics with the Soviets and get some national spirit that will make the folk Hemmet stronger against the German Reich. And that is the communist path for this Sweden mod. Path number 3 will be the Axis aligned one for the Swedish interventionism political branch, and do this starting focus here, of course. Then do democratic principles. That's done. Swedish interventionism. Now just choose to side with the social democrats or the technocrats. It doesn't really matter, I think. Now we'll do socialist economy plan, then infrastructure works, increase workers' salaries, believe in socialism, and do we'll decide the fate of the war. And here Sweden can choose to go with Germany or the Allies, and we're going to go with Germany, so go with them. Learn from the German military. We have nationalist education now. Swedish militarism, increase German military aid, attack Scandinavia, go ahead and annex Norway and Denmark. That's done. Yes. And annex, well, we'll get an annex war goal on Finland with Soviet border, develop Denmark, develop Norway. Then we have a focus called Form North Empire, which ordinarily can only be done if Sweden controls all Finnish states, all Estonian states, all Latvian states, and a little bit of territory held by the Soviet Union. And let me go ahead and just devour Finland, devour Estonia, and absorb Latvia. And I'm going to use focus no checks just so we can see what the flag looks like. So form the North Empire, and with that, democratic Sweden has transformed into the North Empire. I'm going to try to cover the fascist paths next, since I don't think the Swedish interventionist ally-aligned path really has any kind of cosmetic tags you can get from it. Really all you do is, like, I suppose, is cooperate with the other Scandinavian nations and eventually try and take some land from the Baltic states and claim North Germany, I suppose, and obviously join the Allies, which is typically led by the UK in most HOI4 games. So we'll cover, well, most HOI4 playthroughs, and we'll go over the fascist path on the left here first. And it is essentially the independent fascist path for Sweden. So do this focus here. Good. Complete Swedish revolutionism. That is done. Now do invigorate Swedish nationalism. Okay. Destroy the communist influence. The blue shirts. Swedish militarization. And use focus no check, since we don't have enough support for the fascist party in Sweden, so I had to make sure they get into power. And the Swede Reich has been established. Do this now. Work overtime. Expand the mining industry. And let's do Starksfridge. And we're going to do this claim Scandinavian Union focus. Do aggressive warfare. End of the brothership. And annex Finland, annex Norway, and Denmark. That is done now. The Swede Reich controls Scandinavia. And let's do a few more focuses here. Do develop Nordic, join Nordic industry, claim Baltic coastals, and merge the arms industry. And then we have form Baltic Empire, which we need to control all of the Scandinavian states, as well as all of the Estonian, Latvian, and Lithuanian states, and all of the German coastal states, and some land belonging to Danzig and Gdynia, which I think is controlled by Poland, and I'm not going to worry about it. Let me just go ahead and at least get Lithuania and Latvia and Estonia. So that is done now. And I have focus no checks on, so we'll go ahead and at least see what the tag looks like and the flag that comes with it, I believe, if the focus is anything to go by. And the Baltic Empire of Sweden has been created by the fascist in charge of its government. And now let's see what we can do with the Axis aligned fascist path. Okay, let's do this. I already had the fascist in charge of Sweden, and I did all the preceding focuses that are crucial to even do any of these fascist paths at all. So let's join the Axis, then invade Scandinavia. So we gotta annex Norway, annex Finland. Well, we already annexed. I think I annexed them by accident already. Whatever. Annex Denmark, and that is done now. Attack Finland, and we bypassed it because we already sort of devoured them. Next is build up Nordic and develop the supply network in Finland. Then we have form Greater Nordic, and this will make the Svea Reich be known as the Greater Nordic Empire. And let's go ahead and annex all of the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, gotta spell this command right, annex Lithuania, and that is done. We also have, we also may have to actually control some territory controlled by the Soviet Union. We're not going to worry about this, so we have focus no checks on. Just do this focus. And now Sweden has transformed into the Greater Nordic Empire. And the key differences between this path for fascist Sweden and the independent fascist path for Sweden is that the Greater Nordic Empire cosmetic tag does not rely on controlling, say, the German coastal states bordering the Baltics or controlling Gdynia and Danzig, but it does rely on taking some states from the Soviet Union. We have two paths remaining, and they are generally monarchist in nature, and we'll go ahead and do the Reclaim the Swedish Empire one first. So before we even do that, let's do this starting focus here, then do pivot to the past. That's done. Let's do Rally to Monarchists at this point, then Monarchist Riots, Fate of the Crown, and keep Gustav V, and do King of the People. And ordinarily you need more non-aligned support, but I have focus no checks enabled, and Sweden has become the Kingdom of Sweden. Let's do the focus. Royal Officers. Well, is it Royal Officers? Yes, it is Royal Officers. New and Better Sweden. All for the Kingdom. Warrior Spirit. And now we're getting into the Swedish Empire path more directly. So Reclaim the Swedish Empire. Do that. Unite with Norway. We'll see what the Norwegians say. Please say yes, Norway. I beg of you. Unite. Good. They accepted unification. And Sweden. The Kingdom of Sweden has become the United Kingdoms of Sweden and Norway. Develop civilian industry, do all that. Army of the Empire, attack Denmark, invade Finland. So we have annex war goals on Denmark and Finland. Annex Denmark, annex Finland, do Baltic diplomacy, whatever. That gives us some special decisions. Yes. Let's do integration of the empire, and that will make the United Kingdoms of Sweden and Norway into the Swedish Empire. That's its new name. It has a new flag, and the country color is more blue, a dark blue. Let's now complete the focus. Claim north of Germany, prepare for Germany, attack Germany, and also attack the Soviet Union, and that will give us some annex war goals. Let's go ahead and annex Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, since we have cores on all of their land anyway. I believe, yes we do. And let's declare war on the Germans. Annex them now. And your mileage may vary in how difficult these wars will be, because you may or may not be using console commands. And now let's do the focus. Form North European state And ordinarily, you do need to control all the territory we have at this time, as well as some Polish states and also some territory the Soviet Union has, like Leningrad, and they're not going to give that up peacefully. I'll just say that. But I have focus no checks on, so complete this focus now. The North European state has been formed, and it's essentially a monarchist, Swedish-dominated EU, I suppose. I have saved what I think is the most wild path for Sweden in this modification for last, and that is the Viking one. And I went ahead and put the monarchist, I put the king in charge over Sweden already, and I had, instead of keeping Gustav V, we got Karl V Wilhelm in charge, instead of, I suppose, the prime minister or whoever that other guy was, that head of the government. And let's do Return of the Vikings, get this done now. And Sweden has become the Viking Empire, and Ragnar Lothbrok appears from somewhere and takes over the country. And Ragnar Lothbrok, for context, for some kind of explanation, is from, I think, a Viking saga, and he appeared in the TV show Vikings, and that's what his portrait is based off of. Let's do Revive the Viking Spirit, Modern Vikings, the Valkyries, do that. Rebuild the Viking fleet, and unification of the Vikings. How will the other powers in Scandinavia react to that event? Give me your response, please. What will they do? I don't know. Now let's complete all for the Viking state, Viking army, rough integration, and that's some kind of occupation law. Let's finish them, and that will give us a war goal on Finland, annex Finland. That is done. And Viking invasions. Unlock on-map decisions. Viking invasions. Do not declare war. Anybody else while doing an invasion, you will wipe peace with every country after invasion succeed or failed. The decision allows wars with owners of territories that you will claim and claim old conquest. What the world? What is that? Oh no, that's so much land. That's a lot of land, isn't it? That is, let me see here. That's so much territory just for all that land, all that coastal. That is, wow. That just, wow. Tons of expansion opportunities for Ragnar Lothbrok and the Viking Empire, evidently. And let's just do, we discovered America first and invade the Soviet Union. And we get a war goal on the Soviet Union and the USA from those two focuses. Just annex the USA, because why not? The Vikings have seized the USA and toppled their government effectively, since they now control that whole part of the world. And with that, this has been the focus tree for Sweden HOI4 mod. You can check it out in the video description. The link to it is there. What do you think of it? Tell me in the comments below. And after that, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and then ring the bell for notifications.